Now remember, these are rebels, these are idolaters, these are depraved individuals who are still yet in their depravity and have never repented of their sin. The term is used in a figurative way and is a reference back to carcasses. That then would say, all right, what is he doing? Or what he is doing is when he says, for their worm shall not die and the fire shall not be quenched, he is explaining something. Okay, when he says their worm dies not and the fire is not quenched, he is explaining something about these carcasses. Okay, these carcasses are here. They're in Gehenna, the dump. And something interesting about them is that their worm dies not. They're not decaying. They're not rotting. The worm dies not. And the fire that they're in is not quenched. So he's actually describing something. What is he explaining in the text? He is explaining the phenomena. Now, this is where we got to go to verse 23. Okay, remember, Isaiah chapter 66 and 24 is taking place at what time frame? The millennial. Remember, Isaiah 66 is about the millennium. So it's look at verse 24, that in the millennial they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me. Notice the word for, it doesn't say and. For their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched. And these carcasses that are in, they shall be an abhorring unto all the flesh that is there during the millennial. And we're going to get into that. So the question, we got to look at verse 23. Notice verse 23. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord. So put this in your head, during the millennial reign, okay, during the 1,000-year reign, that once a month, all flesh is going to go to the temple and they're going to worship God. After they get done worshiping and they leave, they're going to go by Gehenna, and verse 24 says, and they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me. So that's going to happen for 1,000 years. Once a month, they're going to go into the temple. They're going to worship God. As they leave the temple, they're going to go by Gehenna, and they're going to look upon the carcasses that transgressed against Jesus Christ. And they're going to notice, man, look, their worm's not dying, the fire's not quenched, but it's going to be an abhorring to them as they see this. So how is it that month after month after month, people will come and worship the Lord, but as they leave the temple, they could look upon the carcasses? How is that possible, that month after month after month? Because remember, we had made comment about the fire. Fire what? Consumes, right? So if they're thrown in the fire, that fire should consume the body. Not only that, the fire consuming the body would also consume the worms, but we know worms aren't literal, they're figurative. We're going to answer these. But there are going to be people born, and you've heard me preach this since I've been here. There are going to be people born during the millennial. Okay, there will be sons and daughters that are going to be physically born into this world during the millennial reign. How long is the millennial reign? Very good, 1,000 years. If someone was born 500 years into the millennial, they weren't around when Christ came back. They weren't around to experience the battle of Armageddon that took place and to see the carcasses being thrown into the dump. So 500 years into the millennial, they weren't around when Jesus came back. They weren't around to see all this happen. I mean, that was so 500 years ago, amen? So how is he going to look upon the carcasses of the rebels? Again, that body would have long since decayed, right? I mean, 500 years. They've been dead 500 years. They've been in the trash can, the trash dump. The worms, eat the body, the fire consuming them. So how can that be? Explain that to me. Well, that is what Isaiah does. Isaiah says that they are going to go forth and they are going to look on the carcasses. 750 years into the millennial reign, they're still going to look in that dump and they're going to see the same carcasses that have been there for 700 years. They're going to see the same carcass. So how is this possible? Easy, because their carcasses aren't going to decay. They're not going to decay. Their carcasses are going to lie in that garbage dump for the entire duration of 1,000 years. And the fire will perpetually burn. The fire will burn and not go out. The flames are going to be there, but guess what?